I need to address this significant and troubling development in the Middle East, the Israeli cabinet's formal approval of a plan to occupy the Gaza Strip, or rather reoccupy the Gaza Strip, station troops there indefinitely, and expand its military campaign in what is now being described by officials as a war of total conquest. This move, voted through unanimously by Benjamin Netanyahu's security cabinet, marks a decisive shift, not just militarily but also ideologically. Israel no longer claims merely to be fighting Hamas, it is preparing to retake Gaza. Since Hamas's brutal attack on the 7th of October, in which 1,200 Israelis were killed and over 250 hostages taken, Israel's retaliation has been both fierce and protracted. Over 52,000 Palestinians have died, mostly civilians, and large portions of Gaza have been reduced to rubble. But what's unfolding now is no longer framed as retaliation. Instead, it's being cast as a long-term occupation plan, a strategic redesign of the conflict zone. And according to senior officials and Israeli press, the plan, referred to internally as Gideon Charity, aims to displace much of the Palestinian population southward, establish so-called sterile zones free of Hamas, and allow for gradual territorial conquest. Netanyahu has been unequivocal. The intention is not to go in and come out. The intention is the opposite of that. And the stated aim of the plan is twofold: to destroy Hamas militarily and structurally, and to retrieve the remaining Israeli hostages. But these two goals are in tension. Chief of Staff Eyal Zamir has warned that a large-scale maneuver risks killing the hostages, as indeed seems to have happened. The Hostages and Missing Families Forum has accused Netanyahu of effectively sacrificing Israeli captives for political and military gain, branding the new approach the Smotrich-Netanyahu plan after the far-right finance minister and his ideological ally. The IDF is already calling up tens of thousands of reservists, redeploying troops from the West Bank and northern borders in preparation, yet even senior generals are uneasy for good reason. The last 2 decades have demonstrated the dangers of indefinite occupation, not least in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the humanitarian consequences are catastrophic. The plan explicitly calls for the mass relocation of Gaza's population, already besieged and starving, further south, into a narrow strip of land with dwindling food, no clean water, and hospitals operating without basic supplies. Israel has proposed a new humanitarian aid model, outsourcing food distribution to US contractors in safe zones under military protection, and the United Nations and multiple NGOs have already condemned the scheme as a violation of humanitarian principles, warning that it risks transforming Gaza into a permanent refugee encampment. Even Israeli generals have objected. General Zamir reportedly clashed with far-right Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, who demanded strikes on food warehouses. Zamir notably insisted Israel had a legal and moral obligation to avoid starvation as a weapon of war. The operation is timed strategically. It won't begin until after Donald Trump's upcoming visit to the Middle East, a visit Israel hopes will secure political cover of it, or at least delay US criticism. And Trump, who's claimed he would end the war, has not commented publicly on the reoccupation plan. The European Union has warned Israel to show utmost restraint, while the International Criminal Court has already issued arrest warrants for Netanyahu and the former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant for alleged war crimes. Meanwhile, Hamas claims Israel has walked away from its proposed ceasefire talks and that the new offensive violates the terms of previous negotiations. It has refused to release hostages without an end to the war and a full withdrawal. Here lies the core dilemma. Can you destroy Hamas without destroying Gaza? And more pointedly, can Israel win militarily while losing the moral ground, the moral argument globally and internally? Netanyahu's far-right allies speak openly of permanent control, even resettlement of Gaza. Finance Minister Smotrich declared this week, "We're conquering Gaza to stay." It's a language no longer clothed in euphemism. Occupation is no longer denied, it's embraced. Yet this plan splits even Israeli society. The opposition leader Yair Golan, a former general, warned that Netanyahu is endangering national security to preserve his coalition and political future, and the families of the hostages have taken to the streets in growing numbers, furious that their relatives have become collateral in this ideological war. Israel's plan to take over the Gaza Strip marks a new and dangerous chapter in an already devastating conflict. It risks turning Gaza into a permanent war zone, collapsing international support, and doing irreparable damage to Israel's own democracy and security. Whether it is logistically sustainable, politically viable, or morally defensible, that remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: this is not the end of the war. It's the beginning of something far more aggressive, something else entirely.